Alright guys, so today we're going to be doing an oil change on a 2011 Yamaha Stratoliner. It's a 1900 cc. It's actually like a 1852, I believe it is. It's my bike, and she needs one pretty bad. So anyway, this video is for anybody doing a oil change on one of these Yamahas, or specifically for my students in my auto class. Just want to get an idea of, you know, changing oil on the bike. So was going to do this year, but because of the pandemic we weren't able to. So first of all, got my key here. We're gonna take care of the oil drain first. Actually, just open that up. Seat pops off, all right, with a key. So that's where we've got to access. Put that over to the side. What I've also done is obviously position myself on a relatively flat surface. Got my tools ready. Pretty much what I thought I was going to need. Shallow drain pan. You don't have to lift this bike up to change the oil on it. Mostly everything for oil change is a 17 millimeter hammer, you know, for a little bit of added pressure. My oil filter. My oil filter cup, which is actually going to be the same fit as a Toyota. Set of glasses for when I'm draining, rag, paper towels, etc. You know the drill. So anyway, so let's get at it. If I go down here now, you can tell from the owner's manual, anytime you're doing an oil change, especially something you haven't done before, definitely look up the owner's manual. It's good to see it via video on YouTube or whatever, but it doesn't replace actually seeing it in the owner's manual. So I'm gonna make sure the bike's in gear. All right, and I've got the oil fill just opened up. So all right, now I come down here when I'm doing an oil change on this bike. Again, when I looked it up, I've owned one of these before. When I looked it up, we have 2 oil drain plugs on the bottom of the actual engine, and then one in the sump, which is basically right under the fill here. So if you go straight down from the fill, you will find your drain plug. So I'm gonna actually show you what that looks like. That to drain the sump first. Doesn't matter what I've done it, you know, in different order before as well. But so right here you'll see it's part of your frame right here. And if you go under here, it's right near the shock. You see the spring here and the shock. And if you look up from there, there's the bolt. I can touch it. There's the bolt right there, kind of hidden in there. So it's a 17. We're gonna go ahead and take that out and drain it. Got my my ratchet, short extension, and a 17 millimeter. I'm gonna go up on here, loosen this up. Should be able to, once you get it pop free the first time, you should be able to just loosen it from there and just take it right out. Now I've already warmed this bike up. You definitely want to warm the bike up, especially if it's your own bike. It is better to do the oil change, you know, on a hot engine. Make sure all that sediment is floating around in the oil before you drain it. Also on these drain plugs, there's 3 of them. I would definitely suggest, and I didn't have a chance to get to the store or order online on this one, but there is a crush ring on this drain plug, and they do suggest you change it every oil change. So it definitely is an added safety to make sure that this drain plug stays nice and tight and engine vibration doesn't, you know, loosen it up or anything like that. Now I've been doing several, you know, dozen of these oil changes. I've never had one back out, but I really don't like taking the chance either. So if you have a chance, if your drain plug has a crush ring, you know, find out before you change the oil. You know, you can call your local dealer or even look it up online. But if it's got one, replace it. If it's got regular washer on it, well, just make sure it's in good shape, wipe it down, and put it back in. So anyway, we've got the oil from the sump drained. It about fills up my pan about halfway here. These are pretty decent pans because they're nice and shallow, only about 4 inches tall, but it will hold all the oil that this bike holds. So it's nice. I don't have to have the bike up on a lift, and I can drain all 3 drain plug locations with just this one pan, and then I can dump it into a recycle bin later, so it doesn't spill. So I'm gonna let this finish dripping here, and I'll move on to the other 2 drain plugs. From both sides of the bike, okay, to find these other drain plugs. These are the more obvious ones. Now, one for the sumps, like I said, it's hidden underneath next to that spring. These 2 are a little more accessible. Here's the right-hand side of the bike, which is a little bit higher off the ground because of the kickstand. These drain plugs face the opposite way. So here is one right here. All right, and that's just opposite, pretty much just opposite the spring on the kickstand. And then you've got right in front of it one right here. All right, and I'm going to show you the other side too. Now I need to access this. They're both 17 millimeter. I need to access this from, you know, the higher side of the bike that's more up in the air. But when I do, I'm going to put a wrench on this, you know, with a combination wrench that's got the angled edge on it, because that's the only way I can do it. Now I'm only going to be able to get an 1/8 or a 1/4 of a turn, but that's okay, because again, once this is partially loose, you should be able to loosen it by hand after that. You know, and then when you put it on, you just got to make sure you torque it up. Now, all of these, if you haven't done this before, you may want to look up the torque spec on these drain plugs. Every bike's going to be a little bit different. You know, but if you're not sure, definitely look it up. Get yourself a small torque wrench or something and do it properly. You know, with this, I've got a pretty good feel for it. I've been wrenching all my life, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But that being said, it's a steel drain plug going into aluminum, so it's got to be tight enough, but not too tight. Otherwise, you're going to damage the aluminum. So, all right, so somehow I managed to get this little tripod to show you what I'm doing under here while I'm doing it, so I don't have to hold the phone. But basically gonna move my pan out of the way, make sure I'm not make sure that I'm not spilling oil all over the place. Now I got a hammer just so I can loosen this. Now I loosened it with, that's all it took. All right, I loosened it with the handle. I'm not taking a big whack at it. Just enough to loosen that up. I'll put the pan directly under it. And again, this drain plug shoots out the side, so I got to give myself enough room. I will get oil on my hands, but I don't mind. Burns me, it burns me. It's actually a little cooler now than I wanted it to be when I changed it, but the oil doesn't look too bad. If you could see it, I'm not sure you could see it, but it doesn't look too bad. It's 2050, so it's a little bit thicker than what you'd see in a car. All right, so while that one's draining, what's neat about this bike, and a lot of bikes are the same way, Harley's very, very similar, but the metrics are just super easy. Any of the Hondas, the Yamahas, they're super easy. So again, I can actually just stretch the drain pan once I get this second drain plug loose. And again, I'm making sure that I'm 100% on that nut before I do anything. You know, especially because it's at an angle. So I'm making sure that I'm 100% on that drain plug before I loosen it up. and also going the right way, because again, I'm looking at it backwards, so I gotta go the opposite direction. I just actually slipped off it, but it loosened up, so that's why it happened. Should be, yep, loose by hand now. And I'm gonna go ahead and take this one out. Again, I'm catching this obviously before it hits the oil. So you're gonna get a bunch of oil on your hands. I just preferred not wearing gloves because I'm just gonna get the gloves all oily and have to wipe them off anyway. I might as well wipe my hands off. So, all right, so I've got both drain plugs out. One of them's wiped off. I'm wiping the other one off now. You can see the oil now as it gets thin. You can tell it's not too dirty, but it was definitely due. And I forget how many quarts this little drain bucket is, but it's just about full. It's about an inch from the top, you know, so just to the point where it starts getting a little bit difficult to move around without spilling over the side. So now that I've got those, basically my next step, now that I've got the 3 drain plugs drained out, I'm going to finish letting it leak out here, and then I'm going to move on to the oil filter. All right, I'm going to give you a view from the other side, but oil filter is right there. So right in front of the bike, so it stays nice and cool. Also get some road debris on it and so forth, but it's right there. That's the one that I've got the cup for, because you don't really want to. I have had one situation before where right when I bought the bike, they had put this filter on so tight and it was on for so long, I had to destroy the thing to get it off. If I had used the cup, the proper cup on it initially, I probably wouldn't have had to destroy it. But I had to take giant, big, huge channel locks to it and get it off that time. So I've got the right cup for it. And luckily the K&N filter that I've got to go in its place has a big 17 nut on the front of it. So it'll be easier to get it off next time. This one isn't a K&N. So I had just gotten this bike late last season. All right, so I'm tightening these up now. Definitely took me a quick second to make sure I was going the right direction, because I'm looking at it backwards, but I am going upward with the wrench. And again, I don't want to crack the aluminum housing, so I'm not going too tight, but gotta be tight enough where this thing isn't gonna loosen up on me through vibration. So nice and tight. No leaks. I wiped it down. No, another couple things. Number one is you probably want to try to use some cardboard if you're doing this on a driveway. I got 1 or 2 drips on the driveway. I just happen to not have any cardboard available to me at this point. Usually I keep some available. All right, so I'm positioned under here now. You guys can see the oil filter right there. And here's my cup. You can see the cup for the oil filter, same as Toyota. I'll slide that right in. And then I'm actually doing this backwards, but it doesn't really matter as long as you can get the ratchet in on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick the ratchet head in and loosen up my oil filter. Actually wasn't too tight. Might have loosened up a little even. I was not the last one to do this oil change, so now if you can get the cup off now, great. If not, don't bother. Get it off. Don't screw around with it, just get it off after you take the oil filter out. Another little piece of advice: you may have some rocks or debris that get stuck in here as you're taking the oil filter out. You may just need a little screwdriver or something to get those little pieces out. little pieces of rocks or whatever that are kind of stuck in there, making it tight for my oil filter to come out. Just be careful of this hose, because that oil hose right there can certainly, you can certainly put a hole in it easily. So, got my oil filter out, and I'm gonna set that in a different pan, let that drain, and then toss it. All right, I've got my new K&N filter, and I just prefer K&N, but if I didn't go with K&N, I'd be putting on the manufacturer's filter. So I've already lubed this up, but basically what I'm going to do is, just like automotive, if you've done an oil change in automotive before, get some oil on a finger, put it all around that that seal around the oil filter. All right, I've gone and I've checked the mating surface on the bike for where this goes on. I don't have an old gasket stuck on there, and it's relatively clean. So I'm gonna tighten this as best I can by hand, and then I'm gonna go about a quarter turn with a wrench, because this has actually got a welded nut right on it. And in this case, I'm gonna go about a half. All right, and the drain part of this is done. All right, we've got 3 filters. We've got, sorry, 3 filters. We've got 3 drain plugs, all drained. We've got the oil filter removed, the new one put on, and we should be able to start filling it up. Now I'm going to fill it according to, again, the owner's manual. You want to make sure that you refer to the owner's manual. I'm going to do what I typically do on this. All right, so I put 3 in. 3 quarts are in it. Make sure that I cap this off, and you know, the level's right up close to the top with 3 quarts in it. So that's what I'm gonna put in it. I'm gonna go ahead and start the bike up, let it circulate some oil. The engine, but just enough where you get that oil circulating. All right, I already know it's going to take a lot more than 3, so I'm going to take this drain plug back out again. All right, so sorry, it's the fill plug and dipstick. Grab my funnel and go ahead and put my entire 4th quart in, and then I'll do a half after that. All right, so I did put the 5th in there, the full 5th, because again, it takes 5.2. Just wanted to be 100% sure. And now, when I get my final reading, I want to make sure that the bike is on level surface. All right, so if you got it on an angle, whatever, put it on a level surface, check it. You could do it this way. You could have somebody hold it. Either way. So you can see that I've got hash marks on the dipstick. All right, I just wiped it off. It is going to take a full 5.2 in this case. So I'll go ahead and put the last bit in, and we'll be good to wrap it up. Take it for a little spin. All right, I will say that it didn't take me much longer at all than this video is in length to actually do this whole oil change. I didn't do a whole lot of editing, or I should say I won't be. And the seat's locked in now. gonna take it for a ride around the block. I always double, triple check the oil levels, especially on a motorcycle. But I'm gonna take it for a ride around the block, heat it up, come back, let it sit for a couple minutes, recheck the oil level, and then I'll be complete to go. Write down my mileage, good to go. So